You want to build these amazing cards that make people lose their minds. But there's also much more to it too with a 300. There's this whole, what is the feel of the show going to be? What's going to make 300 more special than this Saturday night? But what you can expect is the first prelim of the night for you to be going like, holy this is insane. That's how good 300 is going to be.
Looking at UFC 300, it is spectacular, absolutely spectacular. But you have a pocket of fans at the moment who are saying, shit, don't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Shit, don't like it, doesn't reach expectations. Now, what is that down to? Do you think it's because they just do not have that superstar main event yet?
Look, for me, as it is, fantastic card. Wouldn't change a thing. Absolutely brilliant for 300. Gaethje, Holloway, BMF as the main event. I'd be perfectly happy with that. The undercard is ridiculous. But at the risk of losing our accreditation, I think Dana has made a bit of a rod for his own back. I think he went out there and said so much stuff about, you wait till what we've got. And he was just bigging it up so much. And obviously, historically, you've had Brock on the card, or you've had wasn't Conor meant to be 200 and then it got changed, didn't it? It was meant to be Conor. So I think everyone's like, well, if that's what they've done for the previous hundreds, this time they're going to get Brock back, or it's going to be Conor, or it's going to be, Ronda's coming back. I've heard people saying stuff like that.
I think we said that.
Yeah,
as a joke.
And I think you even
I picked that.
we did an episode of our show predicting what we think could be a UFC 300
I knew you was going to thumb this in.
headliner.
I knew you'd thumb this in.
Well, I said Gaethje, Holloway. Don't worry about it. I think he's sort of put so much out there. And don't get me wrong, it's still probably the best card of the year.
Who could he have said that would make
to
this
satisfy
pocket of fans
that pocket of fans? I think he had to say Conor or Brock.
But Conor could still come in against Chandler, though.
He could.
They can still add fights 100%. It's April, so we've got 2 months, like 8 weeks.
Do we need Conor
weeks.
as well? I know we're going slightly
For
different
this,
direction. No.
Not for the. I mean, it makes sense that you do 300, which is going to sell bucket loads even just as it is. But if you add, and I think they're looking to do Izzy DDP. That's what I think they're going to try and do as the headliner. But even without that, this sells really, really well just off the back of it being 300. It is an insane card. They'll promote it all over the shop. And then for 302, 303, whatever it might be, you do Conor and then you make another huge amount of money. And the undercard of that could be terrible, but people will just pay for Conor. So, yeah, it makes business sense, in my opinion, to not put Conor on this card. And he's still absolutely stacked. I mean, the wage bill on this card is probably pretty big.
And that's the thing. When you do look at the UFC 100s, you do look at the UFC 200s. Do you remember the undercard? Do you remember the prelims? But I reckon
Jim Miller
in a year's time.
yeah, Jim Miller, he's done it.
But I reckon in a year's time, you could probably go back and you go, holy shit, the fucking prelims to UFC 300. Okay, actually, that's a fucking sick card to be fair.
TJ Asuncao, that was great.
Yeah.
See, it's funny because Gastelum, Johnny Hendricks isn't a fight people even remember happened.
No.
Sage Northcutt,
Musasi is the second fight on this.
Jim Miller fought Gomi. What an amazing
Look
fight.
at the Fight Pass prelims.
Yeah.
All first
TJ
round finishes
Asuncao as well.
Yeah, the Fight Pass prelims are crazy. You've got like 5, 6 MMA legends on there. Like,
All right, I take that back then.
Yeah.
I should remember that.
I think it's okay to not remember what happened 2 weeks ago with the amount of fights that are usually on in a calendar year. I think it's fine.
What conversation have you lads been having about headlining 300? Who do you think it's going to be?
As it is right now, I think Israel Adesanya is probably going to get pressured, or currently being pressured to get back in a cage when he says that he wanted, an extended time off. Because the reality of it is, it's like, you're right. Who is it? The idea that they've promised this big thing, this huge event, and they don't have that, 300 caliber main event.
I said it could be Pereira, Aspinall. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But like,
It's been thrown about, though,
they
hasn't
both
it?
talked about it. They both acknowledged it. As
Neither of them are a
possibility.
superstar, though. The only superstar that seems to be available, if we're saying that Conor is going to fight in June,
Yeah.
then the only superstar that's left, because O'Malley's fighting in 299, is Adesanya, isn't it? Is the only one.
And fighting who?
I mean, the thing is, Ricky's got battered in that fight as well. The way his face looked at the end of that as well, and you wonder, it's like, man, could you really turn around January to what is it, April, to get in there against one of the greatest middleweights of all time?
I know it's a kind of a fight people are looking forward to. Obviously, there's a rivalry there. It'd be very easy to promote. As of such, I don't necessarily think it's going to be like a first choice for 300 because it's almost like that fight sells itself. They don't necessarily need to put it on 300 apart from and they're struggling to find something and they feel like they need to boost it for the profile, for the history of 300.
I wonder if they were just hanging to see what happened with Dricus and how much damage he took and if he won it. And I think maybe to echo what you said, he got bashed up, he looked sore. And is it going to be too soon to turn it around? So do you think maybe Izzy moves up?
I mean, that is a fight a lot of people have said, let's have Pereira, Izzy again, but I really don't want to see that fight again.
I really want to see that fight. I really want to see that. It's a conclusion to the trilogy, man. We have to
They've
see
fought like
it.
7 times.
I know, but it's not in MMA and it's not most recent. It's not who they are like now. Those kickboxing fights were great, but this is MMA and this is the UFC and this is the highest level, and getting a conclusion to this trilogy I think really means something. And I think my only concern with it would be I would like to see when fighters move up, particularly when there's such a big discrepancy between the weight classes, when you go from middle to light heavy and stuff like that, or welterweight to middleweight even. I'd like to see fighters have the time to really actually build up, put on that muscle and stuff. So he wouldn't have had that time. But if that's headlining 300, I think that's great.
Narratively speaking, amazing. But in reality, how is that going to shape up? And, surely you've got to give the advantage to Pereira. In reality, just awful for Adesanya to be facing a fucking much bigger Pereira. I mean, the challenge of that, as opposed to him having to cut down to middleweight when what's his walk around weight? Like 230, Pereira?
I think with some of this stuff, you try and strike when the iron is hot. And I think that we have missed out on fights in the past because people haven't pulled the trigger when maybe they should have pulled the trigger. Izzy, I know he's got the back catalogue of all that stuff, which maybe helps his case, but really, he won the belt back, then he lost the belt. So he shouldn't be challenging for the belt again. But it's about availability of these stars. It's about the dates of the cards. All these other things come into play now when the UFC are putting together these events, that availability is key. And I think, I don't want to change the subject too much, but I look at the lightweight division and I think Islam Makhachev could face a wide selection of fighters. It may not be Gaethje. It may not be the winner of Oliveira Sarukian. It might be the winner of Poirier, Benoit Saint-Denis, because who's going to be ready in time? Like, if Benoit Saint-Denis or Poirier gets a really early finish and Gaethje Holloway's a slugfest, Oliveira versus Sarukian ends in someone getting really badly injured, but they've won, who steps up then? Islam will be fighting on a certain time frame and the UFC have to kind of go with that. So it's not always the right number one contender that gets that fight. It is who's available on the date we want this person to fight.
You talk about pulling the trigger at the right time, and we touched on the chat of Pereira Aspinall. Do you think now's a good time to pull the trigger on that? If not, do you think that fight will not ever happen?
I don't think that's a fight that needs to happen. It's just it's a
just
fight
thinking
you can do it if
fun.
you want. It's a bit of fun, sure. But
I mean, how many fights has Pereira had in the UFC and he's going to become a 3-weight champ? That would be insane.
Yeah, that is like a hook point to that. It's like he could actually win 3 titles, which would be kind of crazy.
What was it? Because you're a massive advocate for Aspinall Pereira. Why?
For that, I think it's for that exact reason. It's also because, like, who is Aspinall going to fight, right? Can you name one person?
Cyril Gane.
Okay, cool.
The winner of Blades
Gane
Almeida.
Fight. We do have the Gane fight, but like I feel like Gane's obviously lost multiple times again in that spot, so we're going to push him to like an interim title shot again when he arguably doesn't deserve it. But I feel like with Tom, he's going to either hold on to the interim belt and defend it, or he's not. And John's not coming back anytime soon. And when he does, it's going to be the Stipe fight. So what you could do is put him against Pereira, for one of them to go to history and also to give Tom, that high-profile spot as well, in a fight that I think would sell well.
Massively.
I think people would really enjoy it.
Do you think Pereira isn't a star, though?
I don't think that, I mean, what we were talking about is headlining UFC 300, and the people that are that level of star is, if you were to bring them back, Brock or Ronda, or the current roster, you'd say Conor, Adesanya, maybe O'Malley. That's a very, very small elite group of fighters that are in that quote unquote like superstars. Tom, really great fighter. Love Tom. Really popular in England, probably popular in America as well. Pereira, popular, but not superstar, not headliner 300. And I just have no interest in it. I think Tom just takes it. As a fight, I think Tom deals with him pretty easily. So I'm not expecting it to be a hard-fought battle or anything. In terms of the history of Pereira winning, sure, but does he need to? Do I care? Do I think he's earned it? No.
But if you don't think he can do it, it's also not appealing.
No, I don't. I would rather see Tom fight the winner of Blades Almeida.
But you say that Tom's not a superstar yet. Like, fighting Curtis Blades or Almeida, he's not going to make him a superstar.
But but he's still got to defend but he's still got to do something.
Well, look, I mean, the chat was obviously Jones ain't going to happen. Stipe's not going to happen. Cyril Gane, is that an exciting fight?
But if you're Tom, then what you have to do is you have to win. That's how he becomes a superstar. And then he maybe goes to Madison Square Garden or Vegas and smashes it there. And that's how he will become a star, because I don't see John Jones fighting him.
Do you think John will respect a win over Alex Pereira more or less than someone like Curtis Blades?
Less.
Yeah,
I would respect it less.
I think John could spin the narrative either way, however he wanted, and show him disrespect in both regards. But
I'll tell you one thing, though. If Pereira fought Tom and Pereira won, John Jones would take that fight.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think John Jones would fight Stipe and then go, I'll take on the interim champ. Yeah, that just affirms his legacy more, because he knows it's a much easier fight.
When we talk about 300 as well, we're all sort of like clamoring together to try and figure out what's going to be that massive main event. But realistically, what do you think is the main event that they could put on that may not, that fans are going to hate as well?
I don't know. Maybe Leon.
The fans aren't going to go nuts for it, though.
That's
I
the
love
thing.
Leon,
If it's
but the
Leon
fans aren't going
Bilal,
to be into it.
like, fucking hell are people going to be upset.
Yeah,
they will.
They really, it's not going to go down well. And you were saying, they're probably holding on to Leon for UFC Manchester or whatever it might be later on in the year.
I think that's got Tom's name all over it.
Yeah, but they'll probably do him against Gane, I imagine. It's a very sensible fight, a very safe fight. Yeah.
What do you
There's
think
no
the
one else
backlash
for him
is
to fight.
of Leon Bilal then as the main event of 300?
It's just that thing of like, there's been a lot of talk about some of the MMA fan base recently with the whole John Anik thing and all that kind of stuff as well. And I think there are just people that are just very easily upset. And it's just, I don't know. And I do stand by the fact that I think Dana really bigged this up to the point where we were like, oh my God, we're going to get the best card ever of all time by a country mile and all. And I still think it's look at the state of it. It's so good. It's already absolutely brilliant. I think in terms of title fights that actually could surpass Gaethje Holloway in terms of its star power and the fans enjoying it, I think you have to have either Izzy versus Dricus in there.
It's a very transitionary period, which is unfortunate given that it's 300. They have no dominant established legacy champions.
Can we have a quick look at UFC champions?
It's just Volkanovski is the only guy with more than 2 title defenses.
It's not Jones, potentially Tom, Pereira potentially, yes. Dricus, can he turn around? Leon potentially, Islam, no. Volk, no. Obviously, Sean, no. Pantoja.
What day in the day? I'm not. Day in the day. I really think Alex Pereira is a really big star for the UFC.
Dana has promised 3 title fights, has he not?
He's also...
And he sort of cheated by putting the BMF in there, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's a title. It's a bit of fun.
That is definitely
It's an absolutely phenomenal fight.
Do an interim. It'll be an interim title fight for the next bit, and then there you go.
You've got to be good on those call-outs, man. I remember chatting to someone from the UFC social media kind of department or whatever, and they were like, you have 2-3 minutes in that post-fight speech to give us at the social media department something to work with. If you don't take it and you just Benil Dariush it and say, I'm going to fight 10 more guys, they've got nothing. But if you give them something, then they can go, right, clip that, put that out there. That's going. How many millions of followers do the UFC social media accounts have? You have to take that moment and treat it like part of the fight. Prep for it if you have to. But people like Bilal and Benil, and I really wanted Benil versus Islam, but we're never going to get it.
And I suppose that's the thing about Chimaev as well. The trajectory of his career from the moment he stepped into the UFC, the fact that he's found himself in that position and that he was going to fight Nate Diaz as well is entirely because of the impressions that he has made on social media, isn't it? It is the disruptance that he has caused that they go, let's get him the fuck up there. Not just the fact that he's dominating in these performances, but the impressions themselves on social media is a big part of it as well.
Well, it's because he's saying he's going to kill everybody and eat them.
Exactly, that's pretty.
It gives them a lot to work with. I think social media.
Think he deserves a shot?
No,
Not really. No.
no.
If he beat one more welterweight after Gilbert Burns, then I would have said, yeah, welterweight. But now it's switched division and he's not even beaten.
Also, at the same time, it's like we always have a conversation. It's just like, you know, the idea of like the fight business versus the sport. If you're looking at it more of a fight business, you're going to put Chimaev in with fight. I mean, they used to do that, didn't they? They used to just kind of just shove anyone in. And the fact that it has been progressed so much to the point now where we are going, no, MMA is a sport and it has rankings and we've got to respect the rankings. It's kind of like fucked it up a little bit for the fight promotion and the fight business, because Dana, even though he does what he wants to do and they ultimately get away with it as well, like it kind of puts a spanner in the works for them to try and make these fights, because they can't just go, let's just throw Hamzat in there, because we have to respect like Bilal. If they didn't have rankings, Bilal would never ever get a fucking title fight, would he? He wouldn't.
No, I think you're right in some of that, but I also think they really just utilize the rankings if and when they want. It's weird that Vera is fighting O'Malley. Yes, he has that win over him or whatever, but really I think Merab, Corey Sandhagen, there's probably one or two others that I could maybe mention at bantamweight that maybe deserve that shot instead of Vera, but it's happening because of the business.
Do you think casual fans give a fuck about...
No,
exactly.
No, they want the big names.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, those are the things that are going to sell those events, aren't they? It's the casual fans.
But again, if you're the UFC, it's a business at the end of the day. They want to make the money, and that is part of it, is who's going to make us the most money. How are we going to convince someone to spend $80 on watching 4 or 5 hours of fights or whatever it is? It's quite a big ask. So when they find these bankable stars, they're like, yes, give it to them every single time. Let them jump the line.
I mean, we are spoilt for the next 3 cards, right?
Not according to some fans.
I know.
They're all shit.
Ultimately, let's kind of roll it back to the first question then. What do you say to those pockets of fans that are looking at UFC 300, and despite whatever that main event is, what do you say to those fans to say, nope, this is not what I wanted, and you can keep it?
It's a really cracking card, and they're still not done with it. They are going to add some other bits. It's, yeah, I don't know. As you say, we are spoiled. 298, 299 is stacked. 300 is stacked. Like, we're going to probably get a Conor fight by, you know, summertime or something as well, hopefully. It's going to be great, man.
I just think if you look at 300 and you don't recognise some of the fighters on there for being superstars, all I'll say is, strap in and fucking enjoy it, because it's going to be incredible. It's amazing.
It's just like, wow. Strap in.
If you're in Essex, get down the pink toothbrush.
So if you do want to support us here at the channel, you can join us as a member for as little as $2.99. So please do that. And then obviously you can see the uncut versions of Stu and Blake and all their uncut glory as well, which is, again, pretty weird.
I'm sorry. Where can the fans find you guys?
Well, a seamless little segue into that. Yes, no, so we're on YouTube, we're on the socials, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. MMA Fan Show. Come and find us, hang out, talk with 2 idiot losers about MMA. That's about it, right?
I mean, that's the worst hit ever. I mean, it's bang on, but shouldn't we big it up a little bit?
Yeah, such an amazing show. We've got such a killer studio, guys.
We
Yeah.
are popping off on TikTok.
Oh, it's going to be lit.